Welcome to Amidon Planet. I'm your host, Joel Amidon. Thank you for joining me in this never-ending quest to learn how to teach better. Today on episode 130 of the podcast, we are talking with Dr. Nicole Roberson. Nicole recently defended her dissertation exploring the relationship between mentoring by subject matter experts and teacher self-efficacy. She used her dissertation as an opportunity to attack a problem of practice and enact change in her role working with schools in rural areas to offer advanced placement courses to students who might not normally have access to such courses. I was excited to chair this committee, and I am excited that Nicole was willing to come on the podcast and talk about what she did and what she found. So let's not delay any further. Here is my conversation with Dr. Nicole Roberson. Dr. Rob, Nicole, welcome to Amidon Planet. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you. I'm still getting used to that. It still sounds a little strange.
Dr. Rob, though, it's got a good, because you're always, Mrs. Rob, but now people call you
Right.
now Dr. Rob, which I like.
Wait,
I like a lot.
I like it. I like it. I'm having to get used to answering to it. A couple of weeks ago, I had students calling me that for the first time, and I had that moment of, oh, that's me. They're
Well,
they're talking to me.
well, it is well deserved, and we're here to talk a little bit about the work that led to that title. But before then, let's talk a little bit about you and yourself, and maybe the journey that led you to pursue a doctoral degree. But tell us a little bit about yourself, Nicole.
So, I graduated with my undergrad and my master's degree here from the University of Mississippi, a long, long time ago,
But what's one thing you
and
did while you're here at the University of Mississippi, which I think is super exciting as well?
I'm assuming you're talking about when I was a cheerleader.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, it was pretty
Science
awesome.
teaching cheerleader. It's awesome. It's
Yes.
great.
It's a very unusual combo to have, that's for sure.
Love it. We need
It's
more.
paid off.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
paid off. So I taught science at the high school level for 20 years, taught a little bit of everything, always biology related, and I loved it. It was one of those I probably could have stayed in my classroom forever and would have been perfectly happy there, but I was also kind of interested in a bit of a shift in my career. I'd always loved working with student teachers and mentoring new teachers. And so when the opportunity to move over to the university came up, it just seemed kind of like the perfect progression. I was going back to a place that had, played such a huge role in forming me in my profession, and to have the opportunity to get to work with the future generation of teachers, it just seemed like an opportunity I couldn't pass up. So I came back here. Just finished my fourth year here at the School of Ed. I get to work with all of these really awesome undergrads and a few master's level students, and kind of see, what they need to kind of help them get started on their journey in education. And at the same time, I get to work with this really amazing program that helps to provide AP STEM work. For a lot of our counties in Mississippi, that might not otherwise have the opportunity to offer those. So I'm still getting to teach a lot of content with my science, but I'm also getting to work with students and teachers, and just really kind of see how all of it kind of works together. So it's a pretty cool job.
Yeah, and you got to share a little bit of your journey too. We'll cross plug podcasts on when you were a guest on the Road to Better Teaching
Right.
podcast, and talking about like some of those, again, what 20 years, right? In the high
Yeah,
school classroom,
20 years.
20 years. And so like given that, and again, like point back at that episode, we'll put a link in the show notes to it. Like I just love, like your attitude towards, teaching and thinking about those areas of growth and things that you did in order to try to better yourself as a teacher. And then, yeah, it felt like a logical progression for you to join us here in the Department of Teacher Education, right next door
Right next
to
door,
right
separated
next
by a
door.
wall.
That's right. Right now, separated by a wall. It's
Yes.
okay. And also too, like in Noah has had a chance to work with you in that the program to order to provide access to those, and that kind of dives into a little bit into your research too, a little bit. But I know that that's then provided him with, I think, opportunities to use. He's not currently well, maybe knock on wood, training to be a teacher, but he's able to use some of these gifts that I know he has as a teacher, and you have fostered those things and are able to provide opportunities for a lot of folks to, pour back into these places, into classrooms that I know that they've gotten a lot of benefit, not maybe not those same classrooms, but they've gotten a lot of benefit out of high school classrooms, and now they're able to help support the teaching that's going on in there. That's pretty cool. I guess that's pretty cool, kind of full
It's
circle sort of thing.
it is very cool. I think what we have are a lot of, college kids, young adults who are passionate about a lot of things. Most importantly, they're passionate about giving back and helping others. And then they're passionate about just knowledge,
Hmm.
and wanting to be able to share it. A lot of our, college students that we work with, they have kind of gone through the rigors of figuring out how do I go from my high school to the dream college that I want to go. And
Right.
so, beyond being able to share like subject matter knowledge, they're also getting to, provide a lot of information to these students about, how to get on that same track. And it's really amazing.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of them are definitely teachers at heart. I think they're just in denial. They just haven't realized it yet.
That's right. Yeah. Well,
We're
and
gonna win them
that's,
over.
yeah, yeah. Well, and that's funny too. Like when it comes time for course selections or talking about colleges and things like that, like my daughter is like a little bit behind my son, is like, doesn't come to me. No, no,
Hmm.
goes to Noah. And I'm like,
Of
hey,
course.
yeah, yeah, hey, what courses should I take? And like just sitting on the sidelines, just be like, you can tap me in, just on the bench here, just ready to check in anytime. So that's okay. That's okay. So the title of your dissertation was exploring. Well, wait. Then why did you want to pursue the degree?
So it was one of those, like, I love school. I love school. I'm a learner. Even, when I was teaching in my classroom, I was the one who would volunteer to teach a new class because I liked the challenge of having something new to work on, some new content. Maybe it was something that I'd studied back in college and I was going to have to go back and relearn it, or maybe it was just some brand new stuff. But I love every aspect of school. So being here at the School of Education, it just seemed, well, it was kind of a well duh moment.
Yeah,
Here was my opportunity to, further my education. While I was still getting to work and do all these other things, it just made perfect sense. And I've gotten to take some really amazing classes. I've learned a tremendous amount. Um, and it just seemed like the right time. Everything just worked out. I'd always kind of considered going back to school, but this was just kind of the perfect, situation where everything kind of lined up.
yeah. And knowing, again, you're right next door and being able to have our check-ins on how's the school we're going, and like just attacking the work, or like trying to figure out like what's the best way to leverage a assignment or whatnot towards, towards trying to reach that end goal. Like, I don't know. It was a good journey. It was a good journey to
It's
see.
been a great journey.
Yeah. Glad it's over, but yeah.
Yes, yes. I look back at it with lots of fondness.
That's right.
Don't want to go back and do it again.
Yeah. Well, so the title of your dissertation was Exploring the Relationship Between Mentoring by Subject Matter Experts and Teacher Self-Efficacy. All right. So and you talked a little bit about the context for your study, but maybe if there's anything else that you wanted to add a little bit of color to what we're going to dive into here.
Yeah. So with the program that I work with, um, we're offering these AP STEM courses to a lot of schools who are really struggling to fill just teacher vacancies in general. A lot of times we've got teachers who are maybe not fully certified in all of the classes that they are overseeing. We just have a lot of things that are going on. Mississippi is a beautiful and kind of crazy place when it comes to making things work. So in this program, I've just had the opportunity to work with a lot of amazing teachers. Some of them at the very beginning of their career, some of them veteran teachers with 20 years or more of experience, and they know what it takes to reach their students, even if they don't possess all of the background knowledge that they need for a certain class.
Yeah.
I've had, you know, math teachers teaching physics and chemistry teachers teaching biology. I've had some history teachers working with computer science. It's a little bit all across the board. And at the end of the day, they all want their students to be successful. They all want, you know, to do what they can. And so figuring out a way to help them do that is really what my goal is with this program. It's to help the teachers teach and help the students learn. So if I can help the teachers teach, then I am helping the students learn. And so it just kind of seemed like, you know, a perfect thing to try to tackle.
Yeah, that like the pedagogical knowledge, that, the community knowledge, all these sorts of assets, but maybe they're just lacking a little bit in the subject matter that they're been assigned to teach. And then also too, to provide access to those AP courses, which is,
Mhm.
I mean, I don't know, status. Like, I know there is something about AP courses when you say like, wow, I'm taking an AP course, like an
Right.
advanced placement course that might lead to credit at a higher
Hmm.
ed institution. That's, I don't know, that, I mean, that also too, like puts it like, wow, I've already got some credit. Like, you
Right.
know,
Right. I've already started that next part of the journey.
right. I've
And so
taken,
it's really cool. And
yeah.
I think too, you know, you mentioned Noah, finding these students, these college students who are so knowledgeable in different, you know, different aspects of specifically science and math. They can kind of help fill some of those gaps. You know, just to kind of describe what our program, you know, envisions, we have these teachers who have all of this classroom experience, but maybe they're teaching some of these AP courses for the very first time. Maybe it's a completely foreign, you know, area for them, but we're trying to support them in any way possible. And so we're pairing these college students who have tons of knowledge, tons of this amazing background, with these classroom teachers to help kind of fill in some of that substantive knowledge that the teachers may not have acquired just yet.
And so that's, you would describe that then as for your study purposes, as these are subject matter experts,
Right.
right?
These are our subject matter experts, our SMEs.
And so, and we can just, we've already talked about him and he's been on the podcast before, so we can use him as a guinea pig. I'm sure he'd be fine with it. Like, so what was Noah a subject matter expert for, and what kind of value did he add into the context that he was placed?
So, Noah is one of those kids who has a lot of content knowledge kind of across the board. Specifically for me, he helps with biology. I've known him since he was a ninth grader, through various school things before I kind of made my jump over to the collegiate side. And I knew of his strong background in science and math. So far with our program, he has served as an SME for biology, for our AP biology, and also for our AP statistics. It's not something that he's looking to pursue as his end game for his career, but he has all of this knowledge and is just really, really great at taking these complex ideas and breaking them down into little digestible bits, giving these great examples, helping kind of guide the students. Into a better understanding. And in a lot of times, guiding those teachers to a better understanding as well. It's a pretty cool relationship. And we get to see this with a lot of our SMEs. They don't have teaching experience per se, but a lot of them have worked as tutors in various capacities.
Yeah.
You know, maybe it was, you know, a sibling, maybe it was somebody at their school, but they've got this drive to help explain and kind of break these things down. And so it's just been a really great fit, kind of watching them take some of this really technical content and kind of bring it to life and make it more accessible, to our teachers and our students that are in their classrooms, a lot of times in just rural Mississippi.
Yeah. So they're just to bring in the full kind of like, and so Noah's not in these places, but
Right.
and all your subject matter experts, they're typically zooming in into these
They're
places,
zooming in
zooming in like what, two
twice a week,
twice a week?
typically. You know, we work with our teachers and our SMEs to find, a schedule that works. We're not expecting the students and the teachers to attend, class outside of school. So we're working with them and meeting them where they are in their
Oh,
classrooms during their assigned class time of the day. And we've got all of these college kids who are zooming in, maintaining the schedule for the entire length of a course. So they're developing those relationships with the teachers, with the students. They're getting to know them, and they're really figuring out how to reach them.
nice.
So it's a mentoring process
Yeah.
across the board.
Which is, I mean, you kind of think it is, maybe, oh, I can't think of the word. Like, you wouldn't think of it like this, like that these college kids are providing mentorship in the subject matter to these classroom teachers. And then, so then you focus on self-efficacy. So
Mhm.
what is self-efficacy, and why focus on it?
So, I mean, it really comes down to something really simple. It's your belief in how well you can do something.
Yeah.
And in the world of teaching, if you have a teacher in front of a classroom and they're trying to explain something, whether it's for the first time or for the 100th time, they have a certain sense about how well they're doing with that and how well they are breaking that things down, how well they are explaining things to their students. And it's no wonder that we have a lot of people who kind of doubt themselves. They may not always see the results, with data that they want to see, and so they're constantly questioning, am I good enough to teach this? Do I have enough knowledge, in my pocket to be able to be successful with this? Um, I see this a lot with the teachers that I'm working with. They may have taught just a wide variety of content, but maybe not at the depth that is necessary for an AP course. And
Hmm.
so that doubt starts to creep in and they start to think, well, maybe I don't know enough. Maybe I'm not ready for this. And so finding ways to build that self-efficacy in them so that they start to take that ownership and so that they start to really believe in what they're doing, it's a win-win situation. It's helping that teacher to develop, and it's also helping to create a more successful environment for their students. I think our SMEs really help with this because they're kind of in that in between stage. They're not a high school student learning it for the first time. They've already been there. So they
Yeah.
kind of know what those students need to hear and kind of how they're processing it because they're not
Hmm.
that far removed. But at the same time, they can work along with the teachers and kind of hear it from that student aspect as well and provide a lot of insight into helping the teacher reach those students and to be able to take something that's super, super complex and break it down into something that's a little bit more attainable.
Yeah. I was trying to think of, like, if it was in my own situation where I was a high school math teacher, and all of a sudden if someone said you're teaching AP Calc, or not AP,
Yeah,
I taught it. Well, no, I did teach AP Calc, and I did need a lot of mentoring there, but AP Stats, never taught AP
hmm,
Stats, took it a little bit in college, but it'd be like, I wouldn't be really prepared. But if I
right,
had somebody that, like, successfully took it, like, just a few years prior, and were in my classroom twice a week, and it was like, okay, I kind of, all right, I kind of feeling this subject, like, what do I need to, not only with the content, but also too probably providing that expertise in, like, hey, here's how you might see it, because they're performing for, there is a test,
right.
like, eventually, like, hey, this is how, not only this is the knowledge, but maybe this is how you need to display your knowledge or to communicate your knowledge so that you can get the appropriate credit on the test eventually.
Absolutely. I mean, all of us who are in education, we probably remember how terrifying our first year of teaching was, constantly just second guessing everything. And
Yes.
I think that's really what we go through whenever we're handed that new content, that new prep. It's like being a first year teacher all over again. Even if you have all of these, tools in your tool belt about how to, handle a class, you've just thrown in that new piece and it makes you just have to reevaluate everything that you're doing. So any kind of support that we can give teachers that are going through that, whether they're newbies or they're veterans, it's just helping to create a better environment for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so the focus on it, like, and obviously you want these teachers to have a belief that they can do this stuff, right? And
Right.
so it makes sense to focus on that. So, all right, so what describe then? So, what was your study like? So, describe that for our audience.
So, I was working with a group of teachers, and my ultimate goal was just to see, how is this relationship between the teacher and this SME? How is it really impacting their self-efficacy?
Hmm.
Is it helping them, or is it actually hurting them? That was just a big question. What's actually happening here? Is there some kind of change?
Yeah.
And so, in one of my earlier classes, it was a stats class. I had stumbled across an instrument called the Cedicist. We won't go into all of the
Yeah. Yeah.
letters, but it's basically an instrument to measure self-efficacy in teachers, and it's looking at it in two components: their confidence in how they teach, and how their confidence in their knowledge, because
And these are
that's
science
that's
teachers too, right? That's
these
the
are
science
science
science teachers.
teachers.
Yeah.
Yeah. So these are, and since I'm working with STEM, it just seemed like a really great fit, because I could have teachers who are extremely comfortable and confident in their ability just to teach in general, but then asking them about their comfort level with the knowledge, well, that's a whole different story.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, with this study, I wanted to see if if there was some kind of measurable change. What does it look like? I would have loved to have been just a quantitative person and done, survey a few times and just analyze that. But I think we saw pretty early on that just wasn't going to do it justice.
Yep.
It wasn't going to help really tell the story. So
Hmm.
we ended up doing, this mixed methods approach. Um, I think using the Cedicist was a great guide for kind of helping us figure out the trajectory of kind of where we could go. I did have a small group of teachers that I was working with, because I was ultimately looking at the ones who would be classified as being out of field. They didn't have the exact content endorsement for these courses they were being asked to teach.
Hmm.
If we can develop their self-efficacy, then we really stand a good chance at developing the self-efficacy for just about anybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it seemed like just a great group to kind of focus on. So I administered the survey early on, kind of get a level of where they were before they started teaching the course and before they had a chance to work with their SMEs. Towards the end of the semester, I administered it again. This was about 3 months after they had been involved with teaching the course, working with those SMEs twice a week, and just to kind of look to see, what changes happen. With the world of statistics, you're kind of looking to see if you get significance, and I didn't get any significance. I didn't see a statistical significance with my results, and had that been just a quantitative study, that's where it would have ended. That
Yeah.
would have been it. But I got the chance to look at my data a lot closer, and I started noticing different things. I had some teachers who really showed some improvement. They showed growth in different aspects of that survey. And so I wanted to look a little bit more closely at it, try to figure out, what's happening. And so that led to a lot of interviews, talking with them one on one and really trying to figure out, what the relationship between those teachers in particular and their SMEs, what did it look like?
Hmm.
Was there something that could kind of explain why they showed growth and why some of the others did not? Um, I had been taking notes myself. I'd been watching a lot of these sessions take place, kind of hovering in the background on Zoom a lot, and just collecting data. So I had some ideas, but I wanted to hear what they were saying. And so the interview process was really pretty amazing, because I started hearing all of these, phrases like, I gained so much confidence. I learned so much of this material, or I felt better equipped to do this. There were just these great phrases that kind of helped, me start to kind of picture, what was going on there.
Yeah.
So it was a cool process.
And then that led to um, some awesome visuals. Unfortunately, it's an audio podcast. So you like putting some ideas together and seeing like, you know, because there was some that grew a lot, some not so much,
Hmm.
according to the measure. But
Right.
then seeing like, okay, well, and you're building theory, right? Like, well, why is it, and what's happening with this relationship? Because that not all SMEs were working with teachers in the same way, and not all teachers were working with their SME. You know, there's a two-way
Exactly.
street there, and seeing like, okay, so what were kind of the ingredients that led to some success, and also explained why maybe there wasn't as much success in
Right.
developing self-efficacy.
So, you know, in just talking with the teachers, two things really started to kind of stand out. They would mention, how they learned this new skill or they learned this new technique. They tried this out. They saw their SME do this, so they wanted to do that. So they were trying new things. I called this skill development
Yeah.
in my writing because there were so many little pieces, little tools that they were picking up. At the same time, I was getting this whole other side of just feedback from them where they were talking about how, they wanted to learn more. They wanted to sign up for more, professional development. They wanted to learn. They wanted to continue growing. And so they were really seeking additional professional growth. So it kind of became almost like a little Venn diagram where, we've got this, you know, set of skills that we're getting. We're growing as a professional. So somewhere in that sweet spot where these things are overlapping with these teachers, they're gaining confidence in their classroom. And the more confidence that they have, the more self-efficacy they end up having because they're really developing more tools for their tool belt. They're feeling better about how to successfully handle this classroom. Ultimately, it would be ideal that these teachers don't need us anymore. That they've moved to a point where they've got it. They can handle it, and they have that belief. Um, but as you mentioned, we didn't see it with everybody. And so
Right.
it kind of threw in another wrench, like, okay, well, why didn't we see this across the board? So, digging through my journal, digging through a lot of different things and really talking with, the teachers and the TAs, it became obvious that there were differences in how much the teachers embrace this. Some were very active and very engaged in just the sessions when the SMEs were present. They were asking questions. They would hear the SME say something, and then they would restate it for their students and practice, breaking things down. They were really kind of testing themselves and being, students in a sense. But then we had others who were just passive observers.
Mhm.
A lot of times during the Zoom sessions, we might not even know that they were there. They were not actively engaged with what was going on. So we didn't have really a level of mentorship taking place. There was just not that participation. So in the end, while we had this mentorship providing the skills and providing this growth, which led to the confidence, which gave us the self efficacy, it was completely driven by the engagement level of the teachers. Only the ones who were really active in that process saw the growth. And the ones who did not show the growth were the ones that could have been classified as just, passive observers for the process.
Yeah, so like it's almost like feels like this like leaning in sort of aspect, like how far are
Yeah,
you leaning in? And then, because also too there is there's a you're talking about developing like a confidence or a belief, but at the same time, like one thing that I was not struggling with, just like came to mind when and thinking about your work is this SME, like when you realize, okay, I'm out of field, I'm being assigned an SME, so like it's almost like there's permission to be like, I don't have to have all the answers, which is
right,
also, I mean, as good experienced teachers, like we know, like, and this goes for all the teachers out there. One thing you know is like you don't know everything, right? And it's
right,
okay. The best thing you could say at some time is, I don't know. Let's figure it out together. And
absolutely.
like, oh, I might need a moment on this. And like, does anyone provide me some help and to switch those roles and be the student? Like, there's more. like the environment is primed to have that sort of relationship where like, oh wow, I just saw this, teenager or early 20s
Mm-hmm.
person just do something that was a little cool, and I'm going to do it myself tomorrow, right?
Absolutely.
And it's like it I don't know if it's freedom or something like, but I wonder if I don't know. That's always been hanging with me. I don't know if like you completely agree
Mm-hmm.
with that, but with that theory or not.
No, I agree because I think a lot of times teachers have that pressure and they feel like they need to know everything despite knowing that they can't know everything.
Right.
And we have a lot of teachers who are under a great deal of pressure to show academic success in their classroom, and so they need to
Yes.
look like the expert. They
Hmm.
need to have that persona in the classroom. But there's just something extremely freeing about the realization of, okay, I don't have to know it all. I can still just be a learner in this sense and try things out. That's something that I really try to impress upon my science students that I have right now. Um, you're probably going to try a lot of things that are not going to work.
Yeah.
And that's okay because you're going to learn something in that process that helps you to reevaluate and get better at it. It may not ever get perfect. And I think
Right.
a
Yeah.
lot of these teachers are realizing that, especially when I've had some teachers who maybe taught the course at a lower level. Maybe they had been teaching a ninth grade biology course and were now tasked with teaching the AP level. This is the college level curriculum. Um, I think there's a wonderful moment when, they start to go through the curriculum and they start to really try to teach it and they realize that, okay, I do know a lot of this stuff. I can do this. I've got some stuff that I need to learn. I've got to
Yeah.
go a little deeper.
Right.
But there's something really freeing about that when you're able to really kind of figure out, where you are and just know that it's a process.
Yeah. So, so I mean, that really that engagement piece. I mean, seeing those different, here's some benefits of using, and now the engagement is almost like uh the secret sauce that helps all those things come together, then leading to that self-efficacy is like is good work, is really good work. And you did a lot to put it all together and to help it kind of see like, okay, what well, and also too, it's a gift to your what you're doing because you get to continue to work work
I
with
get
that.
to keep doing it.
Yeah, keep doing it
Yeah,
and have better knowledge about it. Yeah.
right. It definitely is not something that I'm done with and like leaving behind because I'm with this program.
Yeah.
And so we're constantly trying to improve this and to continue making things better. I get to work with the teachers doing professional development every year before school starts. And so I look forward to being able to say, hey, let me tell you about what I learned last year. And just start from the beginning, trying to impress upon them how important it is for them and their students that they are being those active participants so that we can maybe see this kind of spread.
Yeah. So I guess that leads to not only you know thinking about how your own role and how what you're going to be doing to improve, and you kind of just talked about that, but also too, what are some other lessons that people can take that apply to teaching? And I can kick off one that just came to mind was how often are we using are, even we talk about this in our classroom sometimes where, hey, there's someone that, seems to get what we just did. And maybe we'll, use them as like, hey, can you go help explain it to them too? Or even
Absolutely.
to put them in front of the room and say, hey,
Hmm.
the way you just did that, like for me, a math problem, the way you just did that problem, can you show that and talk about it and what you just did? Because the way you thought about it was different than I was thinking about it, but it also might be helpful to others in the classroom. And just how are we leveraging those experience where students are getting to play, student teacher relationships or student teacher roles get to interplay a little bit and interchange where and looking at that as an asset in your classroom, that we're all just trying to get better at this content, even the teacher. And how can we leverage some of those relationships in the classroom? I don't know, that's one thing that popped up. Anything pop up for you?
Well, I think a lot of times it's really, and you were kind of, hinting at this. It's really just restructuring the way that we conduct our classes. The old school way where, you've got a teacher just delivering content and you're hoping that those students are just going to soak it up and it's going to magically make sense. Um, we know now that that's not what's best. It's not what's best for those students. It's not what's best for those teachers. And so figuring out how to develop that classroom dynamic where the learning is two ways. And I think teaching some of these advanced courses is one of the best ways to kind of figure that out because you've got some really, really bright kids who have been learning all sorts of things, even on their
Yeah.
own. And so they have valuable pieces of information that they can contribute to the class. And so getting the teacher to take on a role of facilitating the knowledge, helping the
Yes.
students, to really interact with it and make sense. We could go into a whole other podcast episode talking about sense making.
Yeah.
But it's one of those where you've the students and the teacher, they have to have that dynamic where there's time to really wrestle with the content and to kind of figure it out and help make sense with your background knowledge and with just your world. And so encouraging the teachers to let the students have that active role.
Right.
Um, it's it can really just kind of change your whole trajectory in the classroom.
Yeah. Well, and I like think, so we teach teachers, and I sometimes I use this a lot. The best way for me to teach teachers how to teach is to let them teach. And then it's like, well, then aren't you actually, and similar to this sort of situation is like, well, then you're not teaching, you're letting somebody else do it. Like, no, no, no. Like you just said, I'm
Yeah,
facilitating. I'm responsible
right.
for everything that's happening here. And like, so I'm facilitating this happening, and I know what I want to get out of it. And I know that there's, things that I'm like, might, would I trying to come up with innovative ways of doing things. I can't come up with all the creative ways that my
Mm-hmm.
pre-service teachers are doing things like, oh my gosh,
Right.
that's an amazing idea. That's awesome. I didn't ever thought about that. I didn't know anything about English to do that sort of lesson. And so seeing like letting students unlock some of their brilliance and hey,
Mm-hmm.
guess what? We need more teachers. Giving giving folks
Yes.
giving young people an opportunity to like maybe stretch out these muscles that they have and you get to see like, ooh, I kind of like this and I'm good
Mm-hmm.
at it. And
Right.
also to shoulder tap them a little bit like I see in you this ability to be a teacher. And so
Mm-hmm.
I think that's also good as well.
Yeah. Well, it's been really cool, working with this program because I've gotten the opportunity to meet so many amazing students from just universities all over the country. And a lot of them have been majoring, in one of these pure sciences. A lot of them may stay there. They may, continue to do research. They may pursue, more advanced degrees. They may go out and work with industry. But we've had a handful who loved working with the classes so much that they pursued an advanced degree in education.
Nice.
I've got two that are going to be physics teachers now because I know those are like
Yeah.
unicorns.
Yeah, yeah. The
Um,
rarest animal. There you go.
Right. And so, it's been really neat to kind of watch it go back, kind of in the opposite direction. And that's something that I would really like to look at too. I studied this past year so much the impact that the program was having on the classroom teachers, but I would like to kind of flip it and
Yeah.
look at how it's changing, some of these SMEs that we have the opportunity to work with. Um, it's been really cool because the one great thing about our SMEs, they're passionate about what they're doing. Um, Typically, if they start with us, they work with us for a number of years. We've had some to carry through for the entirety of its program, like 7 years. They're
Wow.
actually pursuing like PhDs now, and so that's a pretty cool thing,
Yeah.
to watch just the development, because they learn a lot of tricks and tools of the trade as well.
Yeah. Well, even too, I wonder like with what's the like how does that very experienced SME help the new SME
Yeah.
like and develop and figuring out how best because it again it's a little different dance there
Oh,
and developing
well,
that
and just
relationship.
teaching through Zoom. is
Yeah.
is a challenge. It's a big challenge.
Yep.
And so we, every year we kind of, take some of our newest SMEs, and we, assign them some of our experienced ones to observe,
Yeah.
to sit in and just have those conversations with, because the ones who've been with us for years, they've got a lot of great ideas. But like any teacher, what works for one is not going to necessarily work for someone else, but at least gives you more things that you can try until you figure out your style.
Yeah. Because a lot of these kids, like, they may have experienced teaching through Zoom, but might not have been the greatest teaching through Zoom. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's
So,
been a lot of growth in that area too.
yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, just so you already kind of gave a little, I talked about, let's get critical. What would be the major critique of
Hmm.
the work? Not a critique, but like what is next? And so like thinking about flipping it, any other like burning questions? Like that's the thing that's the Manning thing about doing research is like you do something, you find something, but then it always leads to more questions.
Right. Well, I did have such a small group. I only had 10. I would love to kind of repeat this process, and just see if what we're doing, um, could possibly become more generalizable. Because,
Hmm.
right now with such a small group, I
Yeah.
mean, I can look at what my results were,
Yep.
but there's still so much more that needs to really be investigated,
Yeah.
and really kind of take, some of the ideas that I'm getting from the teachers and their SME partner, and try to recreate that for some of our other teachers, some that are maybe new coming into the program, starting them out, fresh with some of these ideas to see if we can really set them up for a great deal of success at the very beginning of this process. Um, I mentioned I do really want to kind of look at, the opposite side. I
Yep.
do want to see, how is it, affecting these SMEs? There's a lot of really cool stuff that has come from this. But those are kind of my big areas because ultimately, I mean, I'm a practitioner at heart. I love to teach. I love to see that aha moment. And I've realized that I love teaching teachers just as much as I love teaching students. And so constantly finding ways to kind of continue just improving that in general.
Yeah. That's awesome. Uh, just one question we like to ask from our experienced teachers is, what's the best thing you've learned lately to help you teach better?
Oh, well, I think a lot of it is just making sure you're not getting stagnant. Um, I think we've all experienced some success in the classroom, and it would be really easy just to say, okay, I'm just going to bottle that up, but I'm
Yep.
just going to
Rinse and
keep
repeat.
doing that same thing.
Yeah.
Um, But I think we have to stay on top of just how things are changing.
Hmm.
I'm reading a book right now on sense making. Just trying to continue to develop, my skills so that I can help lead others in developing their skills. And so I think that's what it is. Teachers just have to be lifelong learners. That's what we want to see in our students, and so we have to model that ourselves.
Yeah. Excellent. Uh, what is one album you love to listen to? So as you know, because you get to hear through the wall,
Yeah.
listen, my vinyl comes through. But is there any album like back of the day, or it could have been a tape, maybe a CD,
Hmm.
that was like this was your jam? Like, did you have something like that?
Oh, okay. So I love music. I just love music. Pretty much any genre of music. My dad was such a just music lover, and so he kind of instilled that in me growing up. He actually worked as a DJ at one point.
What? That's
Yeah,
awesome.
he did. Now,
Nice.
small, local,
Yeah, yeah.
little
Hey,
small town, radio station. And so I would say at first it was forced upon me, but then I definitely, grew an appreciation for a lot of the great 70s rock bands.
yes.
And so sometimes if I'm just wanting to turn something on, I love some Fleetwood Mac. I mean, I love it, they're not maybe the most rock, but I love the Beatles.
Yes.
But just a lot of, oh gosh, Led Zeppelin. I love some 70s rock.
Yeah.
I do. So
But
good
but
memories there.
but if you had to pick one album.
Ooh, one that I could just turn on and just
Yeah.
listen to all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, there's two.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, there's two.
Sweet.
There's so many years ago there was a release called Beatles One.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's
Oh,
all the
uh-huh.
number one hits that the Beatles had.
Yes.
That one's pretty amazing.
That one's good.
And then probably for just nostalgia, my very first CD that I owned was Alanis Morissette, Jagged Little Pill.
Yeah.
And so I can turn that one on too and just like be a teenager again
Love it.
for a
Love
few
it.
minutes. I wouldn't want
Yes.
to stay there.
Yeah. No. I just watched the on the plane the other day, the Becoming Led Zeppelin uh
Oh,
um documentary, which had
that could be
like
cool.
they had like even some like John Bonham didn't do a lot of interviews, but they have a recording of one of his interviews and they incorporated that into it, which was and it was all the guys. So it was pretty cool to hear like how like John Paul Jones and uh, Jimmy Page were like session musicians. That's how they were
Hmm.
so good at what they
Wow.
did. Yeah. So anyway, I'll recommend that
Cool
as well.
stuff.
Yeah. Uh,
Okay.
uh, anything else to promote besides
You
just
know,
hey, become a science teacher?
I sort of say become a science teacher. Um, I there's just not many of us out there. Um, Teachers in general are needed across the board. Um, so for our teachers who are perhaps listening, notice some of these things in your students and encourage them. Um, we definitely don't do it for, the fame and for the money.
Yeah.
It's a calling,
Yep.
but I think we have to look and we have to, like you said, we have to call people out when we see those little gifts
Yep.
and encourage them to pursue it.
Yep, those I see in you statements and say
Yeah.
and identify that, and maybe they haven't thought
Hmm.
about it and maybe they think this is just the way it is, and it's like no, what you're doing is special and unique, and that's good.
Right. Yep.
Well,
Who
this
knows?
was
Maybe we'll get a few more.
that's right, there we go. Well, thank you for doing this good work, Nicole. Thank you for sharing it on the podcast today, and also just that thanks that you're a colleague and someone I
Yeah.
can go to talk about improving and getting better at teaching. So
Yeah.
appreciate you.
That's what it's all about.
All right, there's my conversation with Dr. Rob. I'm really enjoying these conversations, kind of these almost like exit interview conversations with folks that have been doing their dissertations. I wish I'd been started this a long time ago because it really is something they've spent so much time thinking about these problems of practice, and also too like their committee has spent time and lucky enough to be on some committees here where they poured so much of themselves. They funneled down to this thing that they want to attack, want to invest in, and like are taking time away from family, friends, and just putting their passions into something. And I'm excited to get to share this one with Nicole. Excited that we had that one with Claire. We got one coming up with Dr. Leah Teasler coming up in the next episode. So hang on for that. And now the album of the episode, where I share an album I've been listening to as a way to connect with you, the listener, but I just like talking about music. So this one is weird. Not weird. Weezer, the Blue Album. So it's the original, the one that if you're a child of the 90s like myself, well, I was born in the 70s, but really musical taste kind of emerged in the 90s. And I mean, it's the first album that I think they became well known for. They got the Sweater Song on there, Say It Ain't So, Buddy Holly. I mean, it's a great album. Great album. What's cool is my son, Jack, wanted me to get this album, which was pretty cool. Like the fact that he liked this music as much as I did. I just know that when I first came out, I really liked the Sweater Song. Buddy Holly was the one that was on all the time. The Sweater Song was, I don't know, there's something about the rhythm and, the kind of, I don't know why talking about destroying my sweater was a lyric that stuck with me, but I just liked it a lot. And then Say It Ain't So, I think is my favorite now, my favorite song on it now. And it was on Rock Band. So we as a family would have Rock Band. It was the Wii version of it, and all the different editions. And Say It Ain't So was on one of the editions of Rock Band that we played a lot, and I got pretty good at playing guitar on Say It Ain't So. But and here's a confession I'm going to make now. I always thought for some reason that Weezer was from Wisconsin, and that's not true. Rivers Cuomo is not from Wisconsin. And so I don't know why I thought he was from Wisconsin. Maybe it's because in the Buddy Holly song, I think. Yeah, in the Buddy Holly song, the music video for that song featured Happy Days, and Happy Days was supposed to be in Milwaukee. Maybe? I have no idea. But it's a great album. If you haven't listened to it, go to the show notes at amazonplanet.com/episode 130. I always embed a preview of the album in the show notes where you can also get all the stuff we talked about with Nicole. And there's always some audio there as well. And also, too, the stuff that Nicole mentioned. If we have links to it in Spotify, we'll embed a preview of it there as well. All right. That's going to wrap up this visit to Amazon Planet. Show notes are available at amazonplanet.com/episode 130. If you'd like to support the podcast, you can subscribe, rate, review, and share this episode to help others find this content. And hey, maybe you want to share the research that you just heard about. You can also subscribe to the email list to receive the email, the Amazon Planet Dispatch for teaching resources and updates from Amazon Planet. Just was recently talking to a colleague up in Wisconsin just about how people are looking for professional development because it's, like school districts, the funds are tight and they want professional development. So what I try to do is make sure if I'm going to share something, it's either free or low cost. That's what I want to do. Some stuff that's free, low cost, or it's an opportunity to get resources. Those are the things that I want to share because, I could say like, hey, hire me to come in and for whatever. Or hire, you could say, hey, if you have enough money, you can probably go find yourself some professional development or some other things that might help with your teaching. But so I'm going to share things that are either free or low cost. And also, too, just the resources we're sharing here. I mean, even the research from Claire Fern about some of the things that they're doing with structured literacy from episode, what was it? This 130, that would be like 127. Yeah. There's some free resources in there. And so, again, that could be another reason for why you want to share the content or another reason for signing up for the Amazon Planet Dispatch. If you want to engage further, submit a question, comment, or suggestion in the mailbag by sending an email to joel@amazonplanet.com. Lastly, I'm always looking to collaborate with those leading others to love through teaching. If you have an event or opportunity, email me at joel@amazonplanet.com or visit amazonplanet.com/about to fill out the request to call form. Thank you for spending time on Amazon Planet. Special thanks to Dr. Nicole Roberson, for sharing her time and expertise. Thanks to Matt Mifflin for the music in this episode. Finally, thank you to all of you out there learning to teach better and be the good in the world by investing in the lives of others. This world is a better place because you have decided to use the gifts you've been given to serve others. Thank you for all that you do. Peace.